Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress. Only 52 days left now till the World Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana in November in London. It's the 47th event in the history of the undisputed and official World Championship. And on Chess to Impress we're looking at the first 46 events for the world title. We have arrived in 1957. We are in the middle of the Botvinnik era. He became world champion in 1948. Then twice successfully defended his title, but only just by making 12 all draws against Bronstein and Smyslov. And in 1957 we saw the second match Botvinnik against Smyslov. And that was because Smyslov won the 1956 Candidates tournament, which was held in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. It was a 10-player double round robin and Smyslov won by winning 6 games, only losing 1 and making 11 draws. He was 1.5 points ahead of Paul Keres. This is a nice picture from the Candidates tournament. We see Smyslov there, the second from the left, but we also see 2 other future world champions. The third man from the right is the 9th world champion Tigran Petrosyan, and the 4th from the left is the 10th world champion Boris Spassky. But they were already at the top of the game in 1956. Botvinnik-Smyslov was the best of 24 games, and in case of a 12-12 outcome, Botvinnik would retain the title, a regulation which really helped him in 1951 and 1954. An interesting fact is that Botvinnik played without a second, believing his second in the 1954 match had leaked information to the enemy camp. Smyslov won the match, reaching 12.5 points after 22 games, winning 6, losing 3, and there were 13 draws. This is a nice picture from the match. World champion Botvinnik on the left and his challenger Smyslov on the right, and a giant demonstration board. In this video we'll look at game 6 from this match. Let's have a look. It was the 19th of March 1957. White was the challenger Vasily Smyslov and black was the world champion Mikhail Botvinnik. And this challenger played d4 for the first time in a match in game 6. Knight f6, c4, g6, and we get a Grunfeld defense. Here, the most popular move is taking on d5, knight takes, and then e4. But in this game, Smyslov decided on knight f3. Black develops the bishop to that beautiful square on g7, and queen b3. Now white is attacking the d5 pawn 3 times with knight, queen and pawn, and defending it with either c6 or e6 is not really in the spirit of the Grunfeld. Black usually takes here, and that's what Botvinnik did. Queen takes, Botvinnik castled, and e4, setting up a mighty center. But black is going to undermine that center. Bishop g4 was played by Botvinnik. And Smyslov says in his book, Smyslov's 125 selected games, he writes, "One of the most sharp and problematic variations in modern opening theory. I have to admit that the choice of this opening system on the part of Botvinnik came as a surprise to me, since up till then he had normally preferred to play this variation as white, whereas I had been willing to try to vindicate the plan of piece development for black. Now the roles were reversed, and I had to seek a way of countering my own theoretical weapon." So Botvinnik is playing the Smyslov variation of the Grunfeld, and that's quite interesting. Bishop e3, knight fd7, with the idea of putting the other knight on c6, as we'll see, and here Smyslov castled queenside. At the time this move was an innovation that Smyslov had been keeping up his sleeve. Queen b3 was the move that was played before. So castling must have come as a surprise to Botvinnik. He played knight c6 and h3 from Smyslov, forcing the bishop to take the knight on f3. Bishop e2 seems also a very plausible move, but h3 was played by Smyslov. It's not easy to play against your own variation. Here Botvinnik has to take on f3. You cannot flee with the bishop because of g4, and the bishop is lost. If you go to e6 instead, then there is a fork. So black really has no choice and has to take on f3. G takes, knight b6, hitting the queen, queen went to c5, and now f5, trying to break up white's mighty center. Here d5 is a move, knight e5 and then bishop e2, but Smyslov decided on knight e2. Queen d6, offering a trade of queens, e5, and here queen d5 is giving us the best move by Smyslov in his analysis of this game, and then knight c3 hitting the queen, and then queen takes c5, d takes c5, and then black can play f4, protected by the rook, and that gives black equality according to Smyslov. But after e5, Botvinnik did not play queen d5, he took straight away on c5. White took the queen back, and knight to c4. And now f4 was played, and now the beautiful Grunfeld bishop, which is always such a mighty piece, is now buried alive on g7. Just looking at that pawn, which is protected. Here rook a d8 was given as a better move by Smyslov than rook f d8, which was played in the game. Smyslov said that this keeps the queen's rook out of harm's way, and let's look at what would have happened if the game would have continued with the same moves. Bishop g2, knight takes, f takes, knight b4, and then white wins a pawn. But black can then play knight d3 check, king c2, and knight takes c5. This variation is given by Smyslov in his analysis of this game. That's after rook a d8, but Botvinnik decided to play the other rook to d8, and that's less strong. Bishop g2, this is threatening bishop d5 with a bishop fork, winning the knight on c4. So Botvinnik took on e3, f takes, and knight b4. Botvinnik decides to sacrifice a pawn. Did he really have to sacrifice that pawn on b7? Well, let's have a look. You can play e6, and then bishop takes e6, b takes e6, and knight d4, attacking the c6 and e6 pawns, and white will win a pawn anyway. And as Grandmaster Golombek writes in his book on this match, this is an easily winning game for white. Let's look at something else. After f takes e3, can we try and defend the pawn passively? Not really. If we take on d1, rook takes, and then play knight d8 to protect that pawn against the capture from the bishop, then there is rook d7, and white will win a pawn and also has a winning position. Black's pieces are very, very passive, all three of them. That's not the way to play. So knight b4 was played by Botvinnik, sacrificing the pawn on b7. Smyslov took it, rook a b8, and now you cannot return with the bishop, because then black has knight d3 check with a double attack on b2, and black is better here. So after rook a b8, Smyslov protected the bishop with c6, king f7, knight d4, e6, and knight b5, attacking a7 and c7. You don't have a tactic with black. You cannot take on c6, because after bishop takes, the bishop protects the knight. So after knight b5 attacking those two pawns, Botvinnik decided on knight d5, counter-attacking this pawn. And now let's look at this move, a very nice move from Smyslov. He sacrificed in exchange rook takes d5. Beautiful move. E takes and knight takes c7. Taking the other pawn is less good, because then black gets counterplay with d4. But taking on c7 is very strong. The threat is knight a6, and then this rook would be trapped. So now d4 does not work because of knight a6, and if black tries to save his rooks by rook g8. That doesn't really work out because of knight a6. Yes, you can avoid losing material by playing away your rook, but then c7 decides the issue, and that c-pawn is too strong. So what to do after knight takes c7? Botvinnik decided to give back the exchange with rook d to c8. Smyslov took it. Rook takes, knight takes pawn, and rook takes pawn with check, winning the dangerous c-pawn. But if we do a body count after these exchanges, we see that white is 2 healthy pawns up and has an easily winning endgame. Easy technique for a World Championship challenger. King d2, king e6, and the knight dropped back to c3, and Botvinnik had enough. After 28 moves, he resigned this game. And Smyslov equalized the score. Before this game, he was down 3 points to 2. By winning game 6, he made it 3-all. And as you can see from this table, we had a new world champion at the end of this match. After 22 games, Smyslov had 12.5 points, Botvinnik at 9.5, and Vasily Smyslov was the 7th official world champion in the history of the game. There was a regulation that if the champion is defeated, he gets a rematch, and that rematch was played the year after in 1958, and what happened there we'll see in the next video. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like the series, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. The link to the series is here. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.